what I think people miss the most is climaxes have nothing to do with blowing up Death Stars.
Yes.
They have to do with the character growing or not growing. So, I talk all the time to my students about the carrot or the stick. If you're writing, you're the reader gets the carrot or the stick, depending on what story you're doing. If you're writing a tragedy, they get the stick. They do not like the ending. They do not like what happens at the ending. If you're writing a feel good story, they get the carrot. They like what happens. And what I mean by that is if we understand our thematic layer, then the only way to get the reader to consume that thematic layer without preaching to them, without mentioning it, is the protagonist has to start on the wrong side. So if we're writing a story about how racism is bad, protagonist or someone pertinent to the story has to be a racist because then they have to have bad things and they have to change to being a non-racist to show that. And so I always say if the character gets what they want, it's a tragedy. If they get what they need, it's a feel good story because humans don't like to change. So, in a story, what we're trying to do is do a distilled version of humanity.
Releasing your inner dragon.
So, we are gathered once again at this community of writers
Wow, this sounds very solemn and
to,
very
yes, well, I
holy.
feel very solemn about this because I want to talk about endings, about the burial of the story, the closing of the book, the moment when you say, I am done with this tale, and the reader walks away with a central thought. And I want to talk about, I guess, the way in which many, many books and movies in the fantasy genre have left me disappointed. And I guess a couple here and there that have, really satisfied me. But one always
Mhm.
remembers the ones that didn't more than the ones that did, right? You remember only one or two of the perfect endings, but man, can you recollect those imperfect ones?
I don't know. I'm exactly the opposite. I try to purge the bad, um, and just really harp on the good. But I've witnessed my share of bad, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So how do you want to? So there's a couple things we could go down the path with this. I mean, we need to go down all of them, but you know, I mean, you've read my dynamic story creation. I divide stories into two layers with the physical layer, which is where the characters live in the world and all of that. And then the invisible layer, which is the thematic elements that we're never going to mention. That's why it's invisible. Um, I mean, we could start by just saying one of the number one reasons why stories fail to end is they resolve the events, but they do not resolve the meaning of the story. So we blow up the Death Star, but we don't learn anything. We don't change anything. Nothing. We don't walk away with any emotion, and that's because that invisible layer, the thematic layer, was never actually either touched or concluded or whatever. And then there's those that just don't end the physical layer. They don't. They go, oh look, we got to blow up the Death Star, or you know what? Let's go have lunch. Let's just and then just in the movie there. So there is both. But which do
So
you
so
feel?
let me start with the content that started all this for me.
Hmm.
Like I've recently read a YA series called Ark of a Scythe by Neil Shusterman. And spoilers because it is a fairly recent, series, so I am going to spoil a couple of things here. But basically, the premise of this whole series is this was such an optimistic take. I was like, this is never how it's going to go down, but whatever. Like, I'm reading a fantasy book. I'm not going to pull my nose up at this optimistic take. But basically, somewhere in the 2016s, humanity somehow created a singular artificial intelligence that's called the Thunderhead. And it solved world hunger, it solved cancer, it solved mortality, it's like everything. It solved all the things. And humanity collectively decided that it should become our government, and we're no longer going to worry about it. We're all just going to leave it in the Thunderhead's hands. And I was like, yeah, no, not a chance. But anyway, um, so that's the premise. That's the starting point of the book.
Yeah, because we're not ready to trust self-driving cars, even though they have a 99% better death rate
So
than humans.
I'll tell you why I'm not ready to trust self-driving cars. It's got nothing to do with their accuracy. It's got to do with the fact that no one is held accountable. Because and this is my big problem with them. It's
Mm.
not that I don't think they're safe. They are largely safe, but I have seen them make accidents.
Oh yeah.
And when they make an accident, who's at fault? Who carries the cost of the other person that's just been hit?
I mean, who knows if like this is not an argument that I think we should get into on releasing your inner dragon, but my opinion is you buy a car that's self-driving and you decide to use the self-driving feature, then you are taking liability for that car. You trust the car enough that you're saying, I will put my name backing this.
Yeah.
I don't think you can go back after the company.
There was a Waymo taxi that hit a child. Like, is Waymo the company liable for that?
Yeah, because they're the ones that are taking it's their car and they've decided that they trust the car enough
Mm.
to put it on the road. And so they're the one taking liability. I don't think the person, I mean, what's the difference in me driving my Prius and hitting someone and then them going, oh no, it's Toyota's fault. They built the car. Well, but and yes, it's a little different because I'm in actual control of the car.
Right.
But
But see
still, but
see the problem lies in the software, right?
yeah,
So some human has written the software, but now you don't know that it's a human that's written the software. You've got a semi AI. But anyway, so that's a whole discussion for
for
another.
me, still, if
Yeah,
you're going to be the one that owns it, you have
yeah,
taken liability for it.
yeah. But
Um,
regardless, so
that's my opinion.
that there is no
All I was saying
yeah,
is right now there's like
yeah.
8 million self-driving cars on the road here in America,
Mm,
and they have 99% less accident rates than humans. And
100%.
yet that 1% still makes us go, yeah, we don't trust them.
Yeah, because humans are very bad at
Here's what I think.
just judging statistics. But
Well, here's
regardless,
what I
that's not
think.
what I want to get into. So,
Well, let
yeah,
me finish this last thought because this is what I think. I think it's that when you hit me in a car, sure, it's your fault and I'm mad at you, but you're a human, I'm a human, we make mistakes, we know this.
mm,
If your AI car hits me, I'm less forgiving because, in my mind, the thing shouldn't have made a mistake
yeah,
or whatever. So I think it's something to do with we're just more forgiving of humans than we are of
could
technology.
be.
I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah, but
let's
regardless,
move
okay.
on.
So, so this is a setup for the world. Okay, but now, because for random reasons at the beginning, having to do with like people getting separation anxiety when separated from the Thunderhead or something, there is no going off the planet. You're on the planet and you're immortal. Okay? All of humanity is immortal, completely immortal, saved. That people can jump off a building, splat, and get scraped up off the pavement and revived. Yeah.
But people are still boning.
Yes. And that is the problem. And not just that they're boning, but they're still fertile.
Right.
Okay. So now people are having like, however many children, their little hearts can desire. Um, and if if you're not happy with your child or whatever, you can repudiate them and the Thunderhead will, adopt the child and become its parent, basically. So like there's literally no barrier to children here. And so there's an overpopulation problem or a pending overpopulation problem.
So how are we going to fix that? What would be the humane, logical way to fix overpopulation in humanity?
Maybe it's a European perspective. I don't know. But my first thought was maybe we should restrict births. You know, like we're talking about people with nanites in their blood. Maybe you just make them mostly infertile.
Yeah, but that's insane. So what would be a better way to do it?
Apparently, to create an order of assassins.
That just randomly kills people on their way to
No,
buy
no, no.
groceries.
They have a quota.
Yeah, but I'm saying they just pick someone at
Yeah,
random to make their
yeah. They
quota.
just pick someone right. So, so they have this order of the Scythedom, and basically, so everybody agrees that what the scythes are doing is good and righteous, which is the other thing that's weird. So the scythes just walk up to whoever they've decided they're now going to kill to fulfill their quota, and they, slit their throat, kill them with their bare hand, shoot them, whatever it is they do. Okay. So, so that is the setup, the premise for the book. And like I'm laughing about it and making fun of it, but I really enjoyed the book. It was a lot of fun, right? It was a little silly, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Um, and the first book was really cool because there was different like political factions within the Scythedom, and you had like these two people, this boy and this girl set up in like this head-to-head match where they've fallen in love, but at the end of the book they have to fight, and the one has, one gets to be the scythe, and the other one they have to glean the other one because that's what they call it when scythes so there's like a very nice tense setup, and it moves at a nice clip because it's a YA novel, so it moves at the speed of teenagers' attention span. So, really solid. And the first book ends great. And the second book was a fascinating book. Like I really enjoyed the second book because there was a lot of delving into kind of like concepts of immortality and purpose, and do humans need death, and what does it mean to have an omniscient God, which is what the Thunderhead is basically. Like what is the effect on humanity, all of that kind of thing. It was very good. And it ended well, though on a cliffhanger. But I mean, it's the second book in a series. That's perfectly acceptable to be a cliffhanger. Then we come to the third book, and it was a mess. It was a mess all over the place. So, firstly, it's it starts 3 years after the events of the book, and then it goes back 1 year after the events of the book, and then it goes 2 years, and then it goes back to 3 years, and then the timeline in the end, I set up an Excel spreadsheet to track the timeline because I'm doing a review on the book, so I need to be clear on what's going on. But it was a mess timeline wise. I don't know why these time jumps. I don't know why it wasn't just written chronologically. The time jumps back and forth did nothing. They did nothing. Anyway, so um, the two characters that have been central to the story from the beginning do almost nothing throughout the book. Other people do lots of stuff, but they do almost nothing except, I don't know, mope around and philosophize a little bit. And then at the end of the book, they, plus a whole bunch of random people, get on colonial ships leaving the Earth and bugger off to another planet with a new AI called Cirrus to look after them, where pinky swear we promise they won't make the same mistakes as was made on Earth. And I was just like, what? And then like the bad guy gets killed by like whatever the other bad guy, and like there's a resolution for all of those storylines, but I'm like, I don't care. Like none of these resolutions are in any way satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, now I forgot to give my disclaimer at the beginning of this, and I should have. If you found this series good and you enjoyed the ending of it, you're right. And
100%.
both me and Marie are happy that you like the book because we want books to be liked, even the
Yeah.
ones that we don't like. So this is not an attack on you. This is Marie's opinion on how she felt about the book. And guess what? She's right. The book sucked to her. So that's the
Yeah.
disclaimer. Remember that.
Yeah.
So if you love the series, this is not a personal attack against you. You have a different
Yeah.
set of desires for your entertainment than Marie has.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You enjoyed the book? That's great. No problem.
yeah. Um, yeah, so and it's crazy how common that is where and we disagree on Star Wars. We won't go down that again.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
thing on that. But one that we do agree on, which is the same thing in my opinion, we just disagree on the other one, is 1984.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman doesn't even need to be in the story. She does nothing. I mean, she marshmallows a dude for a week
Yeah.
because I can't say the R word literally without his consent, without his, I mean,
Yep.
she roofies him with a
Yep.
ghost and then just and laughs about it after it's done. That was a little disturbing because she meets him afterwards and he doesn't have any clue that he was marshmallowed and she's like, I marshmallowed you.
Yeah, no.
So
I don't know how everybody in the writers' room were like, no, that's fine. Like, no,
very weird. But anyway,
very
but she does nothing other than that, other than the marshmallowing. She does nothing. She does not like literally nothing. She didn't even need to be there. Like if she had been there at the end and convinced the dude to change his mind. But she didn't. So she's there and she's like, I'm convincing you. He's like, no, I don't care anything you say. You don't convince me of anything. I'm going to do it anyway. And then he realizes what it's going to cost him personally with his son and everything like that, and he just changes his mind.
Yep.
And so not only do we undercut the intimate stakes of the story that we were promised, like this is going to hurt us all personally, all that's gone. But Wonder Woman didn't do anything. She literally didn't. She didn't. She didn't fight the other chick bad girl. She didn't fight this guy. She didn't stop anything. She didn't need if you removed her from that story, it would still be the exact same story. And that is insane to me. But there's a
Yeah.
lot of that. There's a lot of and I playing devil's advocate here, given the devil is due. I never thought about something like this, and it just occurred to me. Maybe it's something like I'm a writer and I'm coming with a story, and I just want to do something that no one else has done before. And so I come up with this idea, and it's not that the idea, I don't think about it in terms of is this idea good and is it going to resonate with audiences? It's more of a, oh, look, no one has ever ended a story where the main character literally does nothing and doesn't even need to be there. That's unique. I'll do that. So it could be that. It could be that you just that there might be a reason why no one has ever done that, just saying. But maybe it's something like that where you were really trying to stretch yourself and do something really unique, whether it resonated with audiences or not. So I don't know. It's actually common. Matrix, the last Matrix movie, I feel the same way about.
What
Um,
last Matrix movie?
there can be only one.
There was only one Matrix
There
movie
was,
and it ended great.
and there's only one Highlander, and it ended great. Um, yeah, but no, like two of the movies that are not in our genres, well, not necessarily, that I feel do the same thing and they're both John Travolta movies, Phenomenon and Michael.
Mm,
In both of them, the character gets the power to literally save humanity and change the world for the better. They go through fumbling and bumbling, and then they die before they do anything, and no one is impacted. Nothing changes. Literally, the movie didn't happen.
mm.
And both of them do that. And it's weird to me that like I
It's
don't know
like
what
it's like at the end of a book, if it's like wake up and it's all a dream, I'm like, I'm gonna
right.
hurt you. I'm gonna hurt you.
That's exactly what it is. And that's why audiences that trope is so antithetical to anyone's enjoyment because everyone's like, you promised me something. I took this journey with you for the fulfillment of that promise, and then you're going to tell me it was a dream?
Yeah.
So, yeah. it's I don't know the attraction to it.
So I just want to address a comment that's come up in the Peanut Gallery. So one of the Peanut Gallery said, so the author in Ark of a Scythe concluded their story too early and couldn't think of a way to make them relevant. Do you think their story was satisfying concluded at the end of book two? So no, there was a book two ended in such a way that book three could have been amazing. And there was all of the potential bits and pieces of the storyline that were being threaded in there. There was a lot of opportunity to really dig into it. I just think the author decided to rush it. I think the author needed either a bigger book or a fourth book. And they decided, no, I'm just going to compress the living snot out of my timelines.
I mean, you could be right, but again, I like to play devil's advocate, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt because it could be that. It could be all sorts of other things, and I'm privy to some things that happened in Hollywood and some things like that, that it's like, yeah, that is exactly what happened. But I don't know this author, I don't know anything. And so there is a chance that the author just felt this was a great ending, that this was just the great way to do it, and they believed in their thing. Um, so it's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant on having so many people look at what I do before it goes out, because when I write something, it's brilliant. It's the best idea ever. There's literally no other idea better than this. And I want other people to look at it and go, wow, I agree with you. This is fantastic. Because I'm blind, just like every other writer. We're blind to our own stuff. So sometimes I put stuff out and they're like, so this doesn't work the way you think it works. This is what it makes me feel. And if a swath of my beta readers is saying this actually makes us feel this thing, then I'm wrong. Like, I'm wrong in how I did it, and I need to understand that if I put this out, that is going to exponentially grow through my fan base of all of them feeling that this thing is bad. So so that's why I have my Drakeism of, you do not get to decide if what you've written is good. Only the readers do. And I think that's the other thing that a lot of writers push down that path of, no, this is my art. This is for me. This is what I want to do. I don't care about anyone else. You know, I care about my satisfaction and my fulfillment. And some of those land perfectly. Your circle matches the circle of the genre, and the vast majority of the people enjoy that vision, and you bent for nobody. The problem is there's a lot of writers out there that their vision doesn't line up with anyone else's vision of what a good story is. And they don't listen to anybody else. And I mean, you know, I've said this before on this podcast where I'll meet somebody, and this is before self-publishing was, you know, a legitimate thing, kind of like it is now, where you really have a lot of tools. But they would go, "Oh, I'm self-publishing it because I submitted this 400 times to the industry and I got 400 rejection letters, but they're all stupid. I'm the only one that's right." And, you know, those 400 people that have been working in the industry for 20, 30 years, they don't know anything about storytelling. I'm the one that knows everything about storytelling, even though I've never done it at all, ever. And then they get a bunch of one-star reviews. And it's like, wow, shocking. And that's just, and there is a balance for that because you are also an artist. So I'm not saying be a sellout. You got to do both. That's why we say, until my beta team is happy and I'm happy with something, it's never going to get published. If they're happy and I'm not, it's going to kill me to publish that. If I'm happy and they're not, I'm going to get a bunch of one-star reviews and it's going to kill me to publish that. So until both of us are satisfied, that's when it's going to get published. So it could be that.
It could be. I think that the big important thing, though, is, generally speaking, try to make sure that your main characters are integral to the ending.
Yes.
Not are involved in the ending, not get on a spaceship. One of them is dead when she's carried onto the spaceship. Like,
I'm not pushing back, but I do want to quantify what you just said a little, you know, just change just one thing. Your protagonist.
Yeah.
Because you can write a story from a peripheral narrator perspective. So like The Great Gatsby, you know, Carraway doesn't do anything. He just
Yeah.
watches as Gadsby does it. But the difference is, and if you're going to have a peripheral narrator like Watson or Carraway or whatever, they have to be changed by what the protagonist does. So the protagonist is still the one that does it. The narrator doesn't have to do it, but they have to be changed by what the protagonist does. And Watson is changed by Sherlock, and Carraway is changed by the Gadsby. Like so we still need that change within the narrator, but they don't have to physically do it. So, but that's again, that's running a peripheral narrator, somebody who's not in the, that's on
Yeah.
the outside of the story, watching the story and reporting on the story. And that's a whole different ballgame. But that's still satisfying if that peripheral narrator grows and changes and learns from what this protagonist did. So it's still you if because if you don't do that, if they just watch it, if they're just a chronicler, then that will also fail
Yeah.
because the audience doesn't feel the growth. So yes, I agree with you. I just want to. There
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
ways to do
No,
it where the
100%.
protagonist
Yeah.
isn't actually doing,
Yeah.
or the narrator isn't actually doing it, but the
Yeah.
protagonist always has to be a part of
Yeah.
the ending.
The protagonist needs to be a part of the ending.
Yeah, yeah. And so going back to Wonder Woman, she's supposed to be the protagonist of 1984.
Yeah.
She doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
She doesn't change anything. She literally doesn't even need to be there for that movie to end.
And speaking of 1984 and Ark of Aside, there's another thing they both share that they do the same thing with. The last book. Now, look, the author is way too free with POVs, in my opinion. He loves one and dones, and he had in one and done's POVs,
Yeah.
like it appears once, whatever. It's. So he had a few of them in like the first book, and he had a few of them in the second book, and it was fine. I mean, I'm not
Yeah,
crazy
whatever.
about them, but I read fast.
Yeah, I don't use them. You don't use them.
Yeah.
But it's just because we don't use them doesn't mean
Yeah, it doesn't mean that they can't be used. There are arguments for using them, whatever.
right.
The third book had 50 million characters, it felt like. It felt like every time I flip to a chapter, there's a new character, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. I don't know who's important. I don't know why they're important. Some scenes, I'm getting from the perspective of a brand new character, while an existing point of view character that I've been following for 3 books is standing right there in the same scene. Why are you plaguing me with somebody new's POV when I've got an existing character right there? And this was just too many storylines that were introduced at number 99, And it again, 1984 is just way too stuffed.
Hmm.
You could have taken Cheetah out of that movie,
Didn't need to be in there at all.
and it would not have harmed the movie whatsoever, and it would
Mm-mm.
have given you back half an hour of screen time to
Yeah,
do
it
something
would have.
actually useful with.
Yeah, it would have opened up the bandwidth for the story to be able to focus on the
Yeah,
important, which
yeah.
is, kind of the person whose name the movie is, Wonder Woman.
You'd think.
She's kind of
Yeah.
right there. Um,
Yeah, but you could
top billing.
so you could have done a lot with it.
Yeah.
But they just stuffed too many. Yes, and it's such a thing
Hmm.
in so many books and movies and whatever. They try to fit in like half the world's storylines, And I'm just like, I don't
And
know. Maybe I'm just old, and kids these
so,
days love like crammed stories. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. So we talked about this a lot over the last 2 weeks in the writers' room about giving the story room to breathe. you know, and there's two ways. Now I've left the industry, so I don't have to worry about, some acquisition going, oh wait, your book's 330,000 words long. We can't publish that.
Yeah.
Because I can. So I don't care. So it has opened up. I mean, I always wrote fairly long, but now I can really make sure that my readers have the time to be impacted by the moment. But like last night after group, we read because we talked a lot about interiority last night, and so I was like, well, let me read you a scene. And so I read the scene where this husband is going on this very dangerous mission, and he's saying goodbye to his wife. And so I read it, and everyone's like, wow, I feel it. I feel the pain. I feel their love. I feel the terror of what's going to happen. I feel all this stuff. And I'm like, did it slow? Was it slow at all for you? And they're like, no, man, that was quick. That was just like right. I'm like, it's 999 words. 999 words where they say goodbye.
Mm.
That is that's like 4 pages in a novel of them saying goodbye. And everyone's like, wow. Because when I pointed that out, they were like, yeah, I would have said that was only a couple hundred words long. Like it just went so fast. So it's there's two sides to this. There's one, taking a moment to sit, to allow the reader to sit in the moment, to really consume the moment, to really feel what they need to feel in this moment. And that takes words. And the other side of that is how many words? Well, my litmus test is always, does anybody feel like they're slogging through it? So like there's 1,000 words of a husband saying goodbye to his wife. That's it. That's just there. The whole world disappears and it literally is just them two standing there. I don't even do any scene setting. I don't bring the scene in at all. I let it just totally go white room because it's all about their relationship. And if somebody said, if anyone by beta readers came back and said, this is a good scene. I like this goodbye, but man, I had to struggle. I had to push myself to finish that because it's a lot. Then it's a lot. It's too much. I need to back off some things. But since nobody even notices that they're reading 1,000 words, I know it's not too much. Even though just from statistics, if I say I wrote 1,000 words of a husband saying goodbye to his wife, everybody will be like, well, that's never going to work. That's way too many words for that. But it's not. It just depends on if it works for the reader or not. So,
But there's also just like, so I've recently Bones has dropped on Netflix again. I don't know if you ever watched Bones. I
my
have
wife
a
is a huge fan.
I'm a massive fan of like procedural dramas. I love them.
Hmm.
They're my guilty
Hmm.
pleasure. I adore them. Um, and and Bones is one of the 24 episodes in a season TV
Hmm.
series.
Hmm.
And watching it again now from season one, it's just like, man, I miss these seasons. I
Hmm.
miss 24, like, and none of the episodes are particularly drawn out because it's a procedural, right? So it's a
Hmm.
it's a fast-paced episode every single time. But because the season has got space, the relationships really develop. So you're
Yep.
not in the first episode trying to cram in who Bones is, who Hodgins is, who, Zach is. You're not trying to cram everybody in all at once and develop everything about them because you only have 10 episodes, and they
Right.
each cost over $1 million to make.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like
You
I
can
don't
drop in.
I don't need a
You can
million
drop
bucks.
in
I
one.
don't need $1 million hour-long episodes.
Right. But you can drop in a 2-minute section in episode one, a
Yes.
2-minute section in episode two, a 2-minute section in episode three. By the time you get to episode 24, you have devoted 48 minutes to
Yeah.
whatever this one little plot thread that you're dealing with.
Yeah. And
And that's
I
exactly what me and you do with Epic Fantasy. We're constantly
exactly.
dropping it because we have so much more bandwidth. We have
Yeah.
the ability to spread this
Yeah.
stuff out and allow the readers, if I can pull off 1,000 word scene where the husband is saying goodbye to it and everybody is just ripped right through it and crushed emotionally and really connects deeply with the characters, then I can
Yeah.
because the book is 330,000 words long. So 1,000 words of the husband saying goodbye, as long as it does everything that it needs to do, is literally a drop in the bucket.
And that's really why I feel like these massive, like I enjoyed the beginning of Game of Thrones. um, but I think that it's actually really hurt the TV
Yes.
industry because for some reason it has now set a trend, especially in fantasy, of like incredibly expensive shows with,
Yeah, you're looking at $8 to $10 million an episode.
yeah, an episode,
Hmm.
and you only make like 10 of them. So
Yeah.
you have to like crush the story to
which
fit it
which
in.
is which is so funny because I've had now several producers approach me about buying Genesis for
Mm.
um TV for a T, like, oh, we're gonna make a TV series out of it. And I guarantee myself that I will never, ever, without telling them no, I will never sell that IP because I do two things. I go, oh yeah, absolutely. One, um, I won't do it unless the contract says that every season is 24 episodes. And two, I won't do it unless I'm the showrunner. And no one's going to put me as the showrunner in charge of a
Yeah.
$250 million product because I don't have that
Yeah.
kind of TV experience. And two, no one's going to do 24 episodes at $10 million a piece.
Yeah.
So every time they go, but no, it's a great story. We can do it. I'm like, no, that's my terms. Like,
But
if
the
you
thing
can
is,
sign that, I'll do
I
it.
don't, I don't need 10 million bucks spent on an episode. I don't need every special effect looking like it comes out a movie. I just need a good story,
So
you know?
you are right, but the problem is Hollywood makes more money when the production is more
I know,
expensive.
I know, I get it. I get
I
that they
mean,
have this weird
look at what
calculation.
happened to Deadpool. They came up to
Mm,
Ryan Reynolds and he was like, I want to do the third movie. And they were like, great, you have to have $150 million budget. He's like, no, 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 no. I don't want to. They fought for like 2 years
mm,
because they kept telling him, or was that the second movie? I think it was the second movie. They kept telling him, you have to spend $150 million budget. He's like, I'm not going to do that. It will ruin my movie. I don't want that kind of money. And he literally fought against the big budget. Um, which he ended up folding and having to do anyway. But he did waste a lot of money on some really crazy stuff.
yeah.
Um, so he still did it, but he knew that he didn't need that kind of money for Deadpool. You just you don't. But
Yeah,
that's
but
how Hollywood makes so much money.
yeah, I know. But anyway, so my point with this whole conversation about storylines and cramming and so on is that your ending is more satisfying if it has space to properly pay off character arcs, story arcs, political arcs, and all the rest of it. And what happened with Arc of a Scythe is it didn't. There was a really strong arc there, and it just eh.
Yeah.
um, and it was just crowded out with all of these other bits and pieces of this and that and the like chase a rabbit here and a side here and a this there, and I was just like, I, I don't care.
Yeah. And that's also another danger of having the one-off characters. When you
Yeah,
have the one-off characters, no reader, like we're going to be in the bartender's head for a chapter. Biff. No
yeah.
one's going to connect to Biff. No one's going to care about Biff. We know we're never going to see Biff again. So I'm going to get whatever information out of the chapter that you want me to get. Great. I get that. But I don't have any emotional connection to that information.
You know
As
what
opposed to like,
enrages me when
mm,
people use Biff is when they use those one and dones as cheerleader characters.
mm,
So the reason why you're in the head of Biff is so that Biff can look at the protagonist and
and go,
cheerlead how amazing the protagonist is. So not only are you putting me in the head of a secondary character, but you are putting me in the head of a secondary character and then proving to me that the only reason I'm in this character is to tell that character's story.
yeah,
That offends me.
yeah. But my point was that's a chapter that I could have fallen even deeper in love with the main character. You could
Right.
have given me the same information somehow if you just, pushed yourself and thought
Yeah.
harder and been better at your job, and then figure out a way for me to get that information that it also matters to me. So when Biff gives me the information, or if he's just a Mary Sue, I don't have any physical attachment or emotional attachment to the information now. Whereas if I get it through the character that I am emotionally invested in, now the information automatically becomes emotionally invested. And so that's the other reason why I don't water my stories. You don't water your stories is because we want to spend that time making the reader even more emotionally invested in the character that we want to, because the end is more powerful the more emotionally connected you are. If you give a
Exactly.
shit, then at the end, the end matters. So like last night when we did the husband leaving scene, one of the guys who's never read it before, he's a new guy in the thing. He's like, "Oh my God." He's like, "I'm already seeing." He's like, I don't even know. Like the crazy thing about the scene is on one hand, I know that this character is going to die and this is actually their farewell. But on the other side, I know how amazingly excited I'm going to be when he shows back up and reunites with his wife. And he's like, and the story doesn't tell me which way it's going to go. Like
Mm.
it could go either way. And he said, the thing that I loved about it was he said, and either way it goes, I'm going to be satisfied.
Mm.
I'm going to be satisfied if he dies. I'm going to be satisfied if he lives. Like, because the scene emotionally invested him so much in the husband-wife relationship that the tragedy of this being their last moment together, as painful as it will still be this satisfying closure of this relationship. Same thing as if he comes back. It's going to be a satisfying closure that he came back. So that's, I think, the reason why I want to spend 1,000 words saying goodbye, because I want
Yeah.
the reader to actually care if this husband comes back or not. Like
And
that's the
that's the thing. The more time that you spend with a character, the more time you spend connecting to a character's emotion, the more payoff there is to their storyline. And the problem with all of these one and dones and these side characters whose head you jump in and these people whose head you jump into for a moment or two and whatever, like it's you're never going to make them care as much. You're never going to make me care as much
yeah,
about this one dot orb character
yeah,
as I do about the character that I spent 2 books following.
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
then the thing is the problem is when you rob the reader of a character ending. And this is the other thing that I realized with Arc of a Scythe, and I guess a little bit with Wonder Woman. When you rob the reader of a character-based ending, as an ending that's satisfying because of the characters involved, the only thing you're left with is your world and your plot ending. Now, maybe your world and your plot ending can really shine. Okay, and we can talk about things like V for Vendetta and external story arcs where it is all about the world ending.
Or even go back to the end of Return of the Jedi, because what you just said literally layers into
Yeah,
that
yeah,
perfectly.
yeah. So it's kind of world ending. But here's the thing. You better deliver on a world ending then.
Hmm.
It better be a resonant message. Now, here is the message of Arc of a Scythe. If the world is so screwed up that you feel you can't fix it anymore, go colonize someplace else.
Run.
That is the literal message. And I was like, well, that's nice.
You
So
know, your marriage isn't quite working, and it's going to be really hard to fix it. Or you can just leave.
it's even worse than that because it's
My
like
my my
you can
little
just
Amazon girl. Wait, I just
you
finished
can
saying
you
that. My little
yeah,
I just finished saying that. Like you can run
yeah.
or you can leave, and my Amazon girl said, "I'm not sure I can help you with that." Like out of
Well,
nowhere.
it's even worse than that. It's like run away from your current marriage to another marriage where you pinky swear promise you will not make any of the same mistakes whatsoever while taking exactly the same attitude into your marriage.
Yeah. I'm an alcoholic and I beat my wife, so I'm gonna go get another wife, but I'm taking my booze with me.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
it's just and that was so that was why that ending really didn't work for me because the
Hmm.
world ending didn't work for me either, and the world ending stood out as not working for me because I had a dissatisfying character ending.
Hmm.
Like Wonder Woman 1984, what's the ending of the world? What does the world tell you?
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, something. What the world is supposed to tell you is that
You didn't
it's
ask what it's supposed to tell me.
I know, but the storyline, like if you think of the wishes and like giving up your wishes and so on, is that we can't all get what we want, is basically the
Right.
message.
Right.
but it is an unsatisfying ending with an unsatisfying character ending.
Yeah. And it was all just a dream kind
Yeah.
of ending. I mean, it
And an
wasn't, but
all it was all just a dream ending. It's
yeah,
like a
it was,
trifecta of terrible
yeah,
tropes.
yeah. And then there's the week of marshmallowing,
Yes.
just thrown in for
Yeah.
good measure.
Just for good measure, let's throw in their non-consent. Like
Yeah. Um, God, that was
I have
so
a
painful.
I don't know what was going on in Wonder Woman's writer's room, but
And that watching that movie made me want to be a reader again. Because I'm with my friends and my
Mm,
wife and all of that, and we're watching it. We were watching at home because we don't go to the theaters. We wait till
mm,
it comes out, and we'd have a nice theater room and all of that, or big TV or whatever. But
yeah.
and literally that scene happens, and everybody is just watching, and I paused it when it was over, and I'm like, I can't believe that, and everybody's like, what? What are you talking about? They're just so living in a land of ignorance. And I'm like,
No.
did you not just see what happened? And they were like, yeah, it was so sweet. She got to, get back with her dead lover. I'm like, no, that's not what happened. And so I really do wish that I could live in ignorance again.
No, well, the thing is, like, I picked up on that, but also like the Ryan George, like, he very much picked up on that. He's like, you don't think that might be a problem? It's like,
Yeah.
no, why would that be a problem? Like,
I don't know. I just feel like Cypher sitting at that table eating steak, talking to the agents, going, you know, I know that this isn't steak, but it tastes like steak. And so I want to just go back and just be ignorant. So,
yeah. But yeah, no, but yeah. So anyway, so if you don't give the reader a satisfying character ending, then your world ending does have to be really good. And very, very few writers pull off really spectacular world endings.
well, let's segue that because I do want to talk about some meat. Not that we haven't talked about some
Mm.
meat, but we've been talking about a lot of we've chased a lot of rabbits in this one. But that's the joy of releasing your inner dragon. So so yes, you can have a world story, where the character, whatever.
Mm.
Me and you, I would put you in this category. I think can't think of anything that you write that isn't character driven. I am 100% character driven.
Mm.
So I do believe that stories are in the characters. I do believe that if you do not connect the readers to the characters and their plight, I just don't see how you can do a story that's just plot based or just world based or whatever. Um, and so there's really two ways to kind of deal with the invisible layer, the thematic layer. You can do it as an internal story arc or an external story arc. And internal story arcs means that the theme question is raging inside the character. So Luke Skywalker in A New Hope, the theme is should you rely on technology to save you or should you rely on a higher power, faith to save you? And we can relate to that. We can relate to one person trying to make a decision. One person, in Finding Nemo, it's about what type of parent to be for the Marlin character story arc. And we can relate to that. It is harder to relate when it's the world who has to make the decision. But this is different from what you're saying because having a world plot versus an external plot, because I think what you were leaning toward was the physical layer world ending,
Mm.
but you still have to have that invisible layer. And so like we talked about V for Vendetta, we talked about Lord of the Flies. There's a couple reasons why those, even though I think the V for Vendetta is a million times better written than Star Wars: A New Hope,
Mm.
it will never be as successful because it's the world who has to answer the question. The question is raging inside the entire population, and that is a lot harder for the average Joe to to relate to. It's much easier to relate to one person going through something than an entire civilization going through a situation. The other thing that makes it difficult with an external story arc where the world is going to decide is the characters can't be characters. They can never grow. They can never change because it'll break the story. So if we look at V for Vendetta, V is not a character. V is an allegory for you must give up safety for freedom. And the governor is not a character. He's an allegory for you must give up safety or must give up freedom for safety. They can never change or it breaks the story. Same thing with Lord of the Flies. Ralph is not a character. He's an allegory for all humans are born evil. He can never change that. He has always got to be good. I'm sorry. All humans are born good. He
Yeah.
always has to be good. And Jack is an allegory for all humans are born evil. He can never not be evil because he can never grow. He can never change. And then at the end of it, when, in V for Vendetta, the population is standing in front of the soldiers pointing guns at them, it's the population who has to decide. They turn around and go home, and that proves that you give up freedom for safety. They walk
Mm.
forward and either be shot dead or, as it happened in the movie, walk past the soldiers because the soldiers agreed with them. Now you're giving up safety for freedom.
Yeah.
In Lord of the Flies, when they kill Piggy, the boys now have to decide. Do you go, oh, are you guys actually good? And you just let things get a little carried away, and you're going to go, oh, wow, we just killed a kid. We need to stop doing this. That proves that we're all born good. Or do you do what they did in the story and say, yay, we killed Piggy. Now let's kill that little jerk Ralph. And that proves that we're all born evil. Those are harder for an audience to grab. But the reason why those two really resonate is because they still have a very, very strong consumable message. Most audiences, and again, it's not a mass market thing, so this is more on the fringe side of it, but it's successful enough on the fringe side to let it last generation after generation. Whereas if you fail in that, or if you're just trying to do an external world closure without an invisible layer, that's where you really start losing what you were saying because you don't have the character arc. And so now you're trying to use your physical layer to
Yeah.
close this world event, but there's no invisible layer, there's no thematic layer that is going to actually drive the message of that story. So therefore, no one walks away fulfilled by it.
I will also say, like, external arcs work better in movies than they do in books, in my opinion. And if you just in terms of like general appeal, because for example, V for Vendetta works well as a movie.
Oh, 100%. But it
Um,
was a graphic novel.
yeah, 100%. But it is like because you are not per se in the head of a character,
Hmm.
there isn't the same kind of emotional attachment. You can get the more kind of wide shot view of the world.
Those
It is,
definitely, those definitely need to be written omniscient. And Lord of the Flies is written in more of an omniscient.
yeah,
I'm a narrator telling you the story of these boys on this island,
yeah,
which is exactly what a movie does. There is no point of view in a movie. There's
yeah,
just the focal character of this scene, and the camera technically is the point of view, but the camera can go anywhere.
yeah.
So yeah, you are
But I
correct
was
on
just,
that.
I was thinking of like the V for Vendetta ending where they all put on the masks and walk forward, and I was comparing that in my head to like the I am Spartacus ending,
Yeah.
where everybody is like I am Spartacus, like it's a
Yep.
and through that declaration, they all become a unified front that cannot be
Right.
separated and divided and so on.
Because the world has made a decision which side of the theme they want to be on.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the same kind of principle. Like, and you can tell exceptionally powerful thematic stories with these external arcs. You
Yes.
really, I mean, the things we've mentioned now are iconic in their
Yes.
exploration of themes, and you know, um, people will probably be reading Lord of the Flies long after we're both dead.
Yes.
And there's
Yeah.
a sentient thunderhead running the running the show. Yeah.
Agreed. Um, Although the central Thunderhead will have to kill V for Vendetta because that would be too dangerous of a story to let the population
Yeah.
read for him.
Yeah.
Um, but no, the
But it is hard. It is hard.
because you're actually against you've got several things going against you. You don't have a character, so
Yeah.
no one can grow, no one can change. So therefore, no one can connect to those things. You don't have an individual that we can connect to that's going to actually answer the question for us. It's this much more esoteric world.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the thematic layer, which is the thing that today is the number one thing that writers do not understand, that's where you really lose the audience for
If
that.
you are writing an external theme, an external story, you need to have a theme like an existential philosopher.
Yeah.
We're talking like you need to have a kind of Camus level of theme going on there, where you're talking about, what is the purpose of life? Is there anything, or is it all just an absurd contradiction where we want there to be a purpose, but actually there's nothing, which is
Right.
Camus' theme, right?
Well, I mean, look at the two that we just did. One is,
Yeah.
are all humans born evil or good? And the other is, should you be a society that gives up freedom for safety or gives up safety for freedom? Those are
Yeah.
massive
Yeah.
human thematic questions to wrap your minds around, struggle with.
And
And
there are
that's why
big
it works so
questions
well.
that really can only be answered on the societal level. Like, it is hard. It is incredibly hard to address that level of theme at a character level, because it is not a good and evil you could maybe, but the thing is, an individual cannot speak for a society.
So you are correct on a reality standpoint, but stories aren't realities. They're little. So somebody read last night. He's a new guy. It literally was his first night in the writer's
Mm,
room. And we had plenty to say about his story, but he had this little story within a story
mm,
where we had been with this character for a while, and then this little thing happened with a small little animal getting eaten by a big animal.
mm,
And it was just this small little couple paragraphs in the story, and and the mentor character was like, because the character wanted this thing. This character wanted freedom and to not live by rules and all this other stuff. And so he's looking at the animal going, I want to be like that.
mm.
That animal. See how awesome they are? And then something comes along and eats the animal. And the mentor's like, yeah, and that's the danger of living like that. You may want it, and it was literally a 2 paragraph version of V for Vendetta, but went the
100%.
other
But
way.
the problem is that is just that character's worldview.
Right.
Right?
Right.
If you truly want to address those kinds of themes, it has to be on a bigger scale than just the character. Because because a character's worldview is just the character's worldview. It's
I don't want
not
to.
it's not a societal expression.
I'm going to argue hardcore against that, but I'm going to do that offline because it's too much for this. Um, and not because you're wrong. You're 100%
Yeah.
right. I just see it different, and I want to hit you with a different angle. Um, but it's too much to do. I mean, we're already at
Mm.
we got about 10 minutes left or so. So yes, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you, but I also 100% disagree with you. Because I have a different slant on that.
Yeah.
The one thing that I wanted to get to is, and when we're talking about endings, is what I think people miss the most is climaxes have nothing to do with blowing up Death Stars.
Yes.
They have to do with the character growing or not growing. So, I talk all the time to my students about the carrot or the stick. If you're writing, the reader gets the carrot or the stick, depending on what story you're doing. If you're writing a tragedy, they get the stick. They do not like the ending. They do not like what happens at the ending. If you're writing a feel-good story, they get the carrot. They like what happens. And what I mean by that is, if we understand our thematic layer, then the only way to get the reader to consume that thematic layer without preaching to them, without mentioning it, is the protagonist has to start on the wrong side. So if we're writing a story about how racism is bad, protagonist or someone pertinent to the story has to be a racist, because then they have to have bad things and they have to change to being a non-racist to show that. And so I always say, if the character gets what they want, it's a tragedy. If they get what they need, it's a feel-good story. Because humans don't like to change. So in a story, what we're trying to do is do a distilled version of humanity. That's why I said that's my argument for the world doesn't have to be it can be one person. But anyway, take King Midas. What did King Midas want? He wanted more gold. What did he get? He got more gold. So he got what he wanted, but he killed his
Yeah.
daughter. So the reader gets the stick. If he had gone, oh, wow, I should be happy with what I have because I am King Midas, I'm not homeless guy Midas, then he would have been rewarded for changing to the other side. And so that's exactly how we do this. So like in Star Wars, we're proving that faith is the way to go, the Force. You should choose
Mm.
a higher power. If we were trying to show that, we could still show that by him not blowing up the Death Star. So he chooses technology, he shoots at the Death Star, he misses, Darth Vader blows up his ship and he dies.
Yeah.
The audience still gets, oh, you should have chose the other one. You chose wrong. But you have to do that. You have to either give them the carrot or the stick. So if they and all Luke Skywalker wanted through that whole first movie was technology. He did not want faith. He rejected it every turn. He didn't want, he didn't want to be a part of the fight. He didn't want to fight the little floating ball that was shooting at him. He was very happy when he was in the Millennium Falcon and he blew up a TIE fighter. Like it was all about technology until the very end because he wanted to stay on technology. He wanted that. If he had stayed on technology, then he would have
Would
to
have
get
died.
the stick.
Yeah.
So that's I think the big thing that writers miss is because that's what audiences want. They want the change. They want to see the growth. And if you don't give them that growth, that's where it ends flat. So if they get what they want at the end and they never had to struggle and they started on the wrong side and they end on the wrong side, but they get to eat their cake, we don't feel it's earned. We feel cheated by this ending. We don't feel like he should have or she should have stayed on the wrong side, that there should have been some change, or at least a punishment for not changing. And so that's the thing that I try to push to people with your endings. The endings is not about blowing up the Death Star. It's about the blowing up the Death Star because the character has changed thematically. They've moved to the other side. And so that's what makes, I mean, look at the two external ones we were talking about. In Lord of the Flies, the boys want to be ruthless. They get that, but it's a bad ending. Ralph is going to die. He's the character that we're hoping survives. In
Well,
V
he
for
does
Vendetta,
get rescued. I mean,
he does, but that's a pansy ending. I think they should have killed him. Well, it's like the Pied Piper. The original Pied Piper is we took your children and drowned them. But later versions of that was like, oh no, we paid you anyway. I'm like, no, they drowned. But look at V for Vendetta. They get the carrot. So the soldiers didn't kill them. So it's a happy ending. We get freedom. We get the carrot. We didn't get the stick because we changed. But the entire time the society was like, I mean, even when Evie gets marshmallowed, since we're using that term in this episode, when Evie is almost marshmallowed and by the government people, and V saves her, and she goes to her gay friend who should be very much understanding. He's like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You should have been safe. You should never have gone out there. Are you stupid? You caused that problem. You went against safety. And so the society was very much against freedom.
Yeah.
And then at the end, they realized, yeah, we can't live like this.
Yeah.
We can't live in a world that persecutes everyone who's different for safety.
And that's the thing, like society makes that change and it is satisfying because of it.
Right. No, I agree with that. Like I said, I 100% agree with you that if you're doing it on a societal level, what I disagreed is I can do the exact same thing inside of one character and it means the same to the audience. No, the audience doesn't get to see the world change, but the message to the audience is the same. The message that the audience would consume would still be, oh, we need to give up, safety for freedom, or we need to give up freedom for safety, or whatever. Because stories are encapsulations. They're just distilled moments of time. But again, we don't have time to chase that rabbit. That's just my belief.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like for me, the key is if you're writing a character-driven story, then make sure you pay off your protagonist's story.
Mm-hmm.
If you're writing with a peripheral narrator, make sure you pay off their character arc, not necessarily their involvement in the ending, but their character arc.
Right. They didn't blow up the Death Star, but how were they changed because the protagonist blew up the Death Star?
Right. Exactly. And if you're writing an external arc, I hope that you have your hands on like a really deep question, a really deep theme, because you're gonna need it.
And that's the funny thing. The series that you read, which I have not read,
Mm.
um, and don't plan on it because I use Marie a lot for the, oh, you didn't like it? Nah, I'm not gonna read it. Um, although I'm reading one right now that you like that I do not. But that's a different story.
Mm.
Um, so the the funny thing is that, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. The theme of the series that you read is deep. It
Yes.
is. The problem is that it was never resolved. They left. They just abandoned the problem. They didn't stand in front of a line of soldiers with guns and went, you know what? You may kill me, but I'm going to walk forward. I'm going to change this. This is not going to stay like this.
Mm.
Um, you know, at the end, they're, of Lord of the Flies, the boys are like, we're still going to kill you because we're all born evil.
It's even worse than that because
But I'm saying,
no, so
the,
I need to explain because this was so frustrating. I wanted to strangle the author because I had spent it was so good. I had spent two books really thinking about my philosophical worldview and really turning things around, going like, is it more legitimate to do it this way or that way? Am I correct or incorrect in my morality? Right. And I mean, I really did. I re-looked at my whole worldview, the way I derive morality. Like I didn't agree with the author's point of view, but that didn't matter to how much I enjoyed the book because it made me think. Okay.
right.
So I was into it. But then at the end, so after the characters have buggered off, the two of the secondary characters open up this vault, and now the scythes are no longer active on Earth, and they're now replaced with random diseases that strike every 500 years and kill, like, I don't know, 20% of the population on Earth. I'm like, uh, how is that different?
It would have been funnier if you were like, and then they open up the vault, and every 5 years, Thanos just comes out and snaps his fingers and then goes back to sleep.
That's, but you might as well have done that. Like,
You
okay,
only
so
thought that.
now you've made it so that humans no longer kill humans. Great, but like you haven't resolved the core conflict of the thing, which is like, is it more legitimate to solve the problem with death and end the lives of an immortal being, or to restrict birthright? Like you haven't resolved this conflict at all,
Or find some other way around it.
or find some other or anything. Like it just
Yeah.
I was like, this is not a resolution.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is what kills audiences.
Yeah.
You are setting up expectations throughout your entire story, whether you know it or not. You are
Mm.
setting up expectations, and they like the chapter or the little scene that I read last night. That new guy was like, I now really want to find out what happens, and he's like, please don't tell
Yeah.
me because I really want to read this when it happens, when it comes out. But he's like, but now I'm invested. Like you've made a promise to me. You didn't tell me which way it was going to end. He could die. He could live. If he dies, it's going to hurt just horribly, but it's going to be that satisfying ache that
Mm.
that the attempt was made, that I understand the motivation. I understand why this attempt had to be made. I understand why the sacrifice was made. And, you know, so I'll be there because it's still going to succeed in, obviously overcoming whatever the issue is, or he actually succeeds and comes home alive. He's like, you didn't tell me which way it's going to go. And I can't wait to find out. I can't wait to be satisfied. And then if I had done something like, yeah, actually, he lives there and he goes and gets on a boat and he travels to an island where he's got like 10 wives and he just lives the rest of his life there. Everybody would be very pissed that I had this heavy scene that promised all this stuff. And then he just buggers off to
Yeah.
another island and gets another family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind
So
of what your story has. You just don't and so you have to think like that. And that's why I say everything I write is for the reader. It's not for me. It's to impact them. It's to make them feel something. So I'm giving them a promise. I'm not going to ever lean one way or the other. They're not going to know which way it's going to go until it happens. But I'm going to fulfill that promise. I'm going to.
Yeah.
And they're going to be impacted by it.
And I think that that is a good note on which to end this episode. And we hope that you have been satisfied.
Probably not, because we never follow a theme through any of these. We just
And on
randomly
that
talk.
disappointing note, we will see you soon for another one.
Bye.
If you are ready to take your writing to the next level and work with a group of highly motivated, dedicated writers who are all working to not only improve their writing, but improve your writing, plus you get to work with me on a weekly basis, then I'll encourage you to check out writersroom.us. This is a website that I have created that I really wish I had 30 years ago. It's everything a writer needs to become a better writer. Not only do we do weekly critique sessions, both from other members as well as me, we have daily writing sessions, I do monthly classes, Q&As, we have activities, I do all sorts of learning exercises, such as I do a quarterly writing prompt contest, and just tons and tons and tons of things. So if you're ready to get serious about your writing and you want to actually finish that novel and have a chance of it being published, then I encourage you to head on over to the Writer's Room and join me there. And as a special promotion for listeners of Releasing Your Inner Dragon, I'll go one step more. If you would like to get 50% off for 3 months, reach out to me. There's a million ways you can do that. You can do it through StarvingWriterStudio.com, DrakeU.com, any of my social medias such as LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X, whatever. Reach out to me, say that you would like to check out the Writer's Room for 50% off, and I will send you a link that will allow you to do just that. So hopefully you're ready to start getting serious about writing, and I'll see you in the Writer's Room.
Thank you for tuning in. This is Marie Mullaney, your co-host on this literary adventure. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights and discussions on writing. If you believe in our mission, please like and subscribe our podcast. Sharing our episodes with your community not only helps us grow, but also contributes to a richer, more diverse conversation about storytelling. We appreciate your support. For a deeper understanding of the topics we've discussed, head over to Just in Time Worlds on YouTube. It is a treasure trove where fantasy meets history and science. Every Tuesday, you'll find new videos that delve into the intricacies of world building, drawing from our rich real-world history. Whether you're a writer, a role player, or just a fantasy enthusiast, Just in Time Worlds offers unique insights that will enrich your perspective. Check it out and join the journey of crafting incredible worlds.